Hey YNR fans! Waving hand, welcome to YNR Trends, your go-to spot for the juiciest Young and the Restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama you can't stop talking about. From surprise returns to scandalous twists, we break it all down for you, every day. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. According to Tuesday, September 2nd spoilers for The Young and the Restless, Kane Ashby will play Victor Newman's game for the time being, while Kyle Abbott will crash and burn with Claire Newman. As Kyle waits for Claire's response to his marriage proposal at the Abbott estate, he will hope for positive news. Sadly, Kyle won't get the one he was hoping for from Claire. According to YNR spoilers, Claire's reaction will catch Kyle off guard, thus it appears that she will turn down his ring and decline to become his wife. Given that she just finished telling Kyle that she wanted to proceed cautiously and one step at a time, Claire might respond angrily. It is easy to understand why Kyle's plan will fail because he is diving straight into wedding planning. He'll remind Kane of the power he has over him with Victor. As they plan and coordinate Jabot's takedown, Victor will put Kane in yet another tight spot. Kane has previously acknowledged that he didn't have many options when it comes to joining forces. Kane will reportedly make a more formal agreement on Tuesday's broadcast while playing Victor's game for the time being. Naturally, Kane will be working on his own game in secret. Victor won't be aware of the daring actions that Kane still has planned, since he won't know that he is carrying out his plan to dominate Genoa City. Amanda Sinclair, meantime, is going to take a bold stand for Phyllis Summers. Even though Phyllis and Amanda had a falling out in Nice, Phyllis recently persuaded her to go out for drinks and seemed anxious to restore their relationship. Even though Phyllis occasionally irritates Amanda and crosses her boundaries, Amanda still views Phyllis as a friend. On Tuesday's YNR episode, Amanda will go out of her way for Phyllis, so perhaps she will reveal a secret. When Phyllis offered to undertake his dirty job, Kane assured her that he was abandoning his takeover ambitions and would not commit. Amanda might reveal Kane's genuine motivation, as Phyllis is getting so worked up over it all. In order to deflect attention from himself, Kane wants Billy Abbott and Phyllis to tell others about his failure to meet his objectives. Kane will have the opportunity to strategize in private and make some unexpected future moves as a result. Maybe Amanda will inform Phyllis on the reality and let her know that the plan is still on track. As emotions clash, errors are made, and relationships are tested to the limit, Genoa City's drama will once again take a dramatic turn on Tuesday, September 2nd. With regard to Claire, Kyle Abbott, still bearing the burden of his broken heart, finds himself descending into a perilous mixture of impulsivity and desperation. His attempts to get close to her, connect with her, and mend the damaged parts of his personal life only end in a spectacular and agonizing failure. Everyone is in shock, especially Kyle, who has already been navigating a delicate situation with people around him. It's a crash and burn moment. This most recent error places him squarely in the middle of chaos once more. He has always had a hard time striking the correct balance between his need for affection and his impulsive tendencies. In Genoa City, Kyle has always been a complex character. He was raised with money and power, but also with the burden of expectations, as he was born into the wealthy Abbott family. He hasn't been able to regain his composure despite periods of introspection and attempts at maturity since his connection with Summer, which was once the foundation of his life, has been destroyed. He was at his most vulnerable when Claire entered his life, and although their relationship began out of curiosity and the prospect of something new, it has since been entangled in conflicting feelings, miscommunications, and outside intervention. Kyle makes the decision to risk everything on this Tuesday in an effort to win Claire over, but he is unaware of how disastrous it can be when emotions are pushed too quickly and too hard. Innocently, Kyle starts the day by mentally practicing the words he wants to use to address her. He wishes to project an image of being sincere and truthful, someone who has learned from his mistakes and is prepared to go on. However, behind the surface, his intentions are tainted by remorse, jealousy, and loneliness. Meanwhile, Claire is not in the same frame of mind. She has been juggling her own complex feelings, caught between the ways that people continue to criticize her for her past and her increasing independence in Genoa City. She is careful, guarded, and desperate not to make the same mistakes that earlier left her vulnerable, even if she has been making progress. Even though the timing couldn't be worse, Kyle pushes through, certain that he can make a difference if he can only connect with her. Kyle speaks more quickly than he expects to when he eventually approaches Claire. What should have been a quiet, contemplative discussion turns into a hurried, emotionally charged plea. He discusses their bond, how much he thinks they could have together, and how he sees her differently than everybody else. Claire listens courteously at first, her face composed, but as Kyle's intensity increases, Claire's uneasiness shows. She tries to interrupt, to calm him down, but Kyle screams past her attempts because he is too focused on his own urgency. She is pushed farther away rather than closer by his obvious desperation. The turning point is when Kyle tries to kiss her in a misplaced act of passion, thinking that deeds will speak louder than words. However, Claire flinches rather than igniting the connection he craves. Kyle is left speechless by the abrupt and severe rejection. Claire, who is clearly shaken, informs him bluntly that he has gone too far. She tells him that he must earn her trust and that his actions demonstrate that he isn't paying attention to her needs. For a minute, Kyle is stunned by her remarks, which pierce the air like a dagger, and he realizes that he has just ruined the very opportunity he was working so hard to build. Kyle fumbles through an apology as the shock of what just transpired overwhelms him, but it's too late. Claire makes it apparent that she requires space and that she will not submit to pressure to do something for which she is not prepared. She then leaves, leaving Kyle standing by himself, engulfed by the rubble of his own decisions. His expression is one of sorrow and heartbreak, and the stillness that follows is deafening. In his heart, he understands that this was more than simply a mistake, it was a complete catastrophe that may perhaps ruin his future with Claire. However, nothing in Genoa City happens in a vacuum, and Kyle and Claire's collision has immediate repercussions. Opinions are formed quickly by those who see the consequences or learn about it later. In particular, Summer finds herself in a challenging situation. She still has feelings for Kyle in spite of everything that has transpired between them, and it pains her to see him go downhill. However, she also feels justified because it shows that Kyle hasn't really learned from his mistakes. Envy, competition, and unresolved feelings swirl in the interaction between Summer, Claire, and Kyle, adding fresh levels of tension. Ever the vigilant father, Jack Abbott worries about his son's careless actions. Although he is aware that Kyle has been having difficulties, this most recent incident highlights how lost he has gone. Jack recognizes that Kyle must take responsibility for his actions, but he still wants to support him and assist him return to a better path. Jack struggles with how to effectively reach his son without enabling him, and he believes that sometimes the only way ahead is tough love. If Kyle refuses to accept responsibility, the tension between father and son will only increase. Claire is surrounded by her own network of supporters in the meantime. She shares what happened and how uneasy she felt with those she can trust. She gains sympathy rather than being presented as the antagonist, solidifying her position as a person in Genoa City who should not be mistreated or undervalued. For Claire, the experience turns into a powerful moment where she sets her limits and a sad reminder of the difficulties she encounters. Even if it means foregoing a possible romance, it's a positive step in her quest for independence and self-respect. But that's not how Kyle sees it. He then withdraws into a fog of remorse and self-pity. His mind races as he repeatedly relives the incident, wondering why he always ends up destroying the things he most desires. Although the Abbott name may lead to opportunities, it does not protect him from the repercussions of his own bad decisions. His collision with Claire serves as a wake-up call, but it's unclear if he takes any lessons from it. It is evident that Kyle finds himself at yet another fork in the road, and his next move may determine not just his personal life but also his position in the family and the larger Genoa City community. Because secrets, rumors, and drama are like wildfire in Genoa City, the tension doesn't end there. The fact that Kyle made such a terrible decision with Claire feeds rumors and gives people who already distrust his judgment more grounds to do so. Cracks in Kyle's armor are visible to rivals, family members, and business associates alike, and his personal and professional lives may suffer simultaneously. He has limited breathing room as the pressure increases, and control gets harder to restore the more he tries. In addition to seeing Kyle and Claire collapsing, this Tuesday's episode sets the stage for a more significant fallout that may affect several relationships and plotlines. Claire shows that she won't be a pawn in someone else's emotional struggle by emerging stronger than before and maintaining her limits. In contrast, Kyle must deal with the fallout from his decisions, heartache, remorse, and the agonizing knowledge that he has once again destroyed his own opportunity at happiness. A day's events can have significant and long-lasting effects on the lives of its residents, as seen by Genoa City's complex and constantly changing landscape, which is evidence of the enduring power of serialized narrative. Beyond the mere idea of a personal or professional loss, the spoilers for Tuesday, September 2nd, which center on the abrupt collapse of Kyle Abbott's connections with Claire Grace, provide a rich tapestry for interpretation. This particular narrative turning point is not a singular occurrence, rather, it is an important intersection, a clash of pain, legacy, manipulation, and the brittle framework of fresh starts. The psychological foundations of both characters, the workings of the outside forces influencing them, and the larger thematic currents of the young and the restless itself must all be examined in order to fully comprehend the significance of Kyle and Claire's collision and burning. As a character, Kyle Abbott straddles the line between deep emotional insecurity and business heritage. His identity is constantly entwined with the expectations of his name because he is the son of Jack Abbott and the heir to a media empire. However, he has a history of pursuing approval, which frequently results in him making snap judgments and compromising his morals. He is in a state of emotional turmoil as a result of his recent past, especially the breakdown of his marriage to Summer Newman. Once a pillar of his existence, his relationship with Summer broke down due to outside influences, betrayals, and fundamentally different approaches to their family's turbulent dynamics. Kyle has become fragile as a result, a vulnerability he frequently hides under a facade of romantic bluster or corporate violence. Therefore, his decision to turn toward Claire is not just a calculated economic decision or a random act of generosity, rather, it could be his lifeline. By standing up for Claire, he may be unconsciously trying to improve not only her reputation within the family but also his own sense of direction and moral character. He sees in her a chance to be the hero, the compassionate Abbott who breaks the cycle of condemnation and lends a helping hand, demonstrating his own value apart from his father's shadow and the ghost of his failed marriage. Conversely, Claire Grace comes into this relationship bearing a traumatized load that is quite Shakespearean in its intricacy. Claire's redemption story is naturally complicated because she is introduced as a villain who has been tricked into doing horrible crimes against the Newman family by her maternal grandmother, the legendary Jordan. Deep-seated fear and hostility are triggered by her sheer presence in Genoa City, especially from Victoria and Nick Newman. She was more of a weapon than a voluntary participant in her prior transgressions, which she navigates every day in her attempts at integration. Thus, her appreciation for Kyle is both strong and risky. He is among the few influential people who believe in her ability to change and provide unwavering support. Claire becomes vulnerable and dependent as a result. Her shaky new identity is partly based on Kyle's religious beliefs. As a result, every challenge to that basis is not merely a social or professional rejection, rather, it has the potential to cause a disastrous setback and strengthen the fundamental conviction that she is and always will be an unredeemable outsider. The phrase crashes and burns used in the spoiler implies a disastrous and highly visible failure. This implosion most likely results from the unavoidable clash between the hostile, uncompromising forces opposing Claire's integration and Kyle's well-meaning but maybe narrow advocacy. Without a doubt, Victoria Newman is the most powerful of these forces. Victoria's instinctive protectiveness stems from her experience as a mother who witnessed her children in danger. Gaining her forgiveness is difficult, and restoring her trust after it has been damaged is nearly impossible. According to her, Kyle's persistence on bringing Claire into the family and business spheres is not only innocent, it actively jeopardizes the stability of Newman. Victoria wouldn't use subtle tactics. She would use her considerable influence and power to methodically undermine Kyle's proposals, pointing out all of Claire's previous transgressions, challenging her intentions at every turn, and ultimately portraying Kyle as a traitor or, worse, a stupid pawn to the precarious Abbott-Newman détente that frequently regulates business dealings. Kyle would be forced into a corner by this outside pressure. His impetuous nature would conflict with the requirement for polite, strategic maneuvering. He would probably go too far in his haste to defend Claire and prove his case, issuing lofty declarations or demands that he is unable to back up. He might make a public stand at society that backfires badly, or he might try to compel a vote at Jabot. The sound of his arguments colliding with the immovable object of Victoria's rage and other people's ingrained prejudices is known as this crash. The ensuing repercussions is the burn, the erosion of his reputation in the company boardroom, the escalation of the opposition against Claire, and the humiliation of having his judgment so openly and extensively questioned. In addition, the arrival of Summer Newman, Kyle's ex-wife and Claire's main enemy, further complicates matters. From Summer's perspective, her hatred for Claire is visceral, personal, and completely justified. It would incite a rage that goes beyond business rivalry to witness her ex-husband not only support but fervently defend the lady who tormented her family. Summer's response would give Kyle's failure a very intimate and sensitive undertone. Her charges of treachery would go much deeper than Victoria's criticism of the company. She would portray his decision to choose a known enemy over his child's mother as a serious personal slight rather than a poor business decision. Kyle would be further isolated and any chance of a future reconciliation with Summer would be smolderingly destroyed by this emotional whirlpool, which would guarantee that his crash and burn is not limited to the office but instead forcefully spills into his personal life.